in the next few minutes is to acquaint you with two things. One, the philosophy behind Marine Corps training, and two, some current examples of specific training. The kind of training which helps keep the Marine Corps ready at any time to meet any aggressor under any situation. That the Marine Corps, your force in readiness, is an elite military organization, traditionally maintaining the highest state of combat preparedness, is a fact with which most of you are familiar, I'm sure. History is filled with the accomplishments of our Marines, all the way from service with John Paul Jones on the Bonhomme Richard in 1778, right down to an action which is still vivid in our memory, victory in Korea. Now, there must be a reason for this continuity of effectiveness, and there is. The reason is the individual Marine, the man himself, who even in this day of exotic weapon systems remains the greatest single asset of the Marine Corps. The proper training, motivating, and orienting of this individual Marine is the means whereby the Marine Corps maintains its readiness policy. The policy which was recently restated by General David M. Shoup, the top Marine, in a message to all Marines, both regular and reserve. I'd like to quote in part what General Shoup had to say. Let us spare no effort toward keeping all our mental, material, and spiritual weapons ready to support our nation's goal of continued liberty and freedom for all people. Because we believe that an NCO, a non-commissioned officer closely associated with training, both basic individual training and small unit leadership, could give you the best insight into the process, we have asked Staff Sergeant Henri E. Barber of the United States Marine Corps to be with us and to tell you in his own words some of what actually goes on. It gives me great pleasure to present to you Sergeant Barber. Sergeant?
Thank you, sir. You know, one of the first things we learn in the Marine Corps is that the key to our success is the ability for all of us to be Marines first. We must all know the fundamentals of our profession, which is just another way of saying we must acquire and maintain the basic skills of a rifleman, no matter what field of activity we're assigned to. These basic skills are constantly improved by training and developing in the individual pride, self-confidence, initiative, discipline, adaptability, and teamwork, plus proficiency in small arms and small unit tactics. Integrated into our training is the development of physical, mental, and moral fitness, as well as the understanding of the responsibility of one Marine to another and to one's unit, our esprit de corps. So much for the philosophy behind this training. Now let's watch a unit that's going through more advanced training to meet any situation, from large-scale operation to small unit missions, even deep reconnaissance. After a man has been assigned to a unit, he is brought before a screening board. This screening board consists of officers and staff NCOs. He brings his service record book. This record book contains his military background as well as his personal history. He is asked different type questions, professional and non-professional questions. This is determined mainly what type of attitude he has. Keep your eyes on this Lance Corporal. He's going to be with us throughout. After being formed into a training platoon, they are now ready to move into their new quarters. As you can see, they're now on the double. This is the way they'll be for the next 3 weeks. The men are given physical and mental tests. The mental to see how he will react to future training. The physical to see how he can condition his body as well as his mind. Some have made it, some have not. The ones who have made it are now being formed into a training platoon for jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia. Here they undergo 3 weeks of intense training. The first week is devoted to Ground Week, where they learn how to fall without permanently injuring themselves. The second week is where they go into the Tower Week. Here they go out for different types of towers of several heights. Here a man learns how to gain confidence in himself, his equipment, and his leaders. The third week is where they make their actual jump. They make a total of 5 parachute jumps. Here is where the man's previous training pays off. Upon completion of his 5th jump, he receives his parachute wings at graduation. Following jump school, the training platoon embarks for New London, where it begins its underwater training. The first part of this training takes place in the buoy and ascent tank. In the tank, the men make their first buoy and ascent. This is for future operations within the submarine. After each ascent to the surface, the men are given a detailed examination by a diving doctor. The men are now taken out of the training platoon and put into a permanent platoon and assigned to a team. They are given their final briefing by the officer, and now the NCO takes his team into the escape trunk for their first training mission. They now put into practice the training they learned in New London at the tank. Swim in, they take all the equipment that they'll use on the patrol itself in the waterproof bags. In it are weapons, food, equipment, and any specialized type of gear will be used on the mission itself. Remove any evidence of landing. The parachute and underwater training have prepared them for means of entry and recovery. However, the main objective of the team is the accomplishment of the mission. Now put into practice is the basic training that every Marine has learned and gone through. Patrolling, overland movement, cover and concealment, and map reading. Here's where the importance of teamwork and leadership is self-evident to every member of the team. The team has completed their first assigned mission and will now move to an assigned pickup point, where they'll be recovered and taken back to the company area. The team will then report on their first mission, and the performance of every team member will be carefully evaluated. Mission accomplished. There are many other parts of Marine Corps training that I'd like to go into and put emphasis on, but time will just not permit it. But it is my hope that you have gathered from what you've observed and heard an impression of the versatility of the trained Marine, as well as a recognition of how intense and well-organized Marine Corps training really is. I'd like to say, too, that I have found a great sense of achievement and personal satisfaction in every moment of training, both as a trainee and as a leader. I am convinced a lot of you young men out there would find the challenge rewarding.
Under the guidance of Staff Sergeant Henri E. Barber, we've shown you several examples of specialized training of certain Marines who have completed individual basic training at the recruit depots, followed by an additional month at a more advanced level in the individual combat training regiments. Through this and other types of training, the Marine Corps stands ready at any time to meet any aggressor under any conditions, whether the mission be reconnaissance, operational intelligence, or guerrilla anti-guerrilla warfare, and whether the mission requires a small team or large integrated organizations for combined operations. The ultimate objective of training is to place on any battlefield a combat-ready Marine, imbued with the will and ability to fight and with a firm determination to win. while the leader's inherent responsibility is to ensure that each of his Marines individually and his unit collectively knows the weapons, the tactics, and the techniques of the profession thoroughly. And further, that each Marine possesses the mental attitude to employ these skills aggressively and successfully when required. What you've just seen has, we trust, given you an even greater faith in America's force in readiness, the United States Marine Corps. On land, on sea, and in the air, the Marine Corps is ready because nothing is left to chance. Training. Training of all kinds in all units. Training with the best weapons and equipment. Training under intelligent and dedicated leadership. Training combined with physical, mental, moral, and professional readiness. These are the elements which, when added together, equal the United States Marines.